Okay, everybody, and I'm back. The quad is back, and we have much to discuss. Are we finally turning a corner? We're going up against the Houthis yet again. We're fighting the jihadists on campus. And as every week, so many scumbags, so many heroes, only on JNS, only on the quad. Welcome back, everybody, to the quad. And I have missed all of you, but you've been in great hands here with my incredible co-panelist, Shoshana Keats-Jaskoll, the founder of Chokhmat Nashim, Elevating Orthodox Women's Voices and Fighting Discrimination. Barb Heller, who moved here from LA just for this show, actor, podcaster, generally good soul, and our very special guest who's been making so many waves here in Israel and on this show especially, Daniel-Ryan Spalding, who is a comedian, but so much more. And I was in the United States because I am one of the leaders of a party called Kol Israel, who is we're running for the Zionist Congress elections. Why do we have a Zionist Congress? Mainly because it's a democratically elected body in the Jewish world that can actually deal with having a say with the future of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. It's the only voice that diaspora Jews actually have to make a change. And Kol Israel is my party, shameless plug, number 4, vote for us. But now let's get back to the West fighting back. And that's how I feel. And maybe it's just me, delusion and exhausted from a year and a half of fighting. But I finally feel like the West is fighting back. And I consider us the West in this context because we've been alone in this fight for quite a long time. And now with the Trump administration just taking off the gloves or putting on the gloves and saying to the Houthis, enough is enough, saying to the jihadists in New York, in Colombia, and all over America, enough is enough. You support Hamas. You are propagating the propaganda of terrorists. You're out. And the warning to Iran that you keep this up, you're next. So is it just my own kind of wishful thinking? Or do we think that's something that we've turned a corner? Daniel, how do you see this?
Well, I think what we're seeing is the moral collapse of the left. I think that the left has moved so far left that they've been sort of captured by a lot of really fringe, hyper ideological ideas that do not identify, that most Americans and most people in the West do not identify with. I think most people know that jihadism and Islamic terrorism is bad, and murdering people who are innocent and kidnapping them is bad.
So who thinks it's good?
I think that there's sort of this, academia, and academia has been hijacked by Islamists and this slow-moving integration of Muslim Brotherhood ideas and sort of this idea of, maybe we should hear them out. Maybe we should hear their side of the story. Kids are being taught jihadist propaganda in these universities. They're being taught that the Iranian Revolution was a good thing.
Yes.
When it was a takeover of Islam, and they've been taught that it was like resistance against Western imperialism, and the Middle East was divided up because of oil, and Israel was created as a Zionist entity to exploit people in the region, and Iran and the IRGC has set up an axis of resistance to help get the Palestinian people their land back. This is what they're being taught in universities.
And the mainstream media go along with this?
They're silent. No one talks about it.
It's unbelievable, Shoshana.
Look at what's happening to the United States of America. When you fight against racism, which is a great fight, you are supposed to say there should be no racism. But what they're doing instead is reverse racism. Like I said this before, and I will keep saying it. They're resegregating university campuses.
Yeah.
You have black-only dorms and white-only dorms. And they say, it's so that the black people can have a safe space. Excuse me. Segregation was a bad idea. It is a bad idea. And reverse racism so that white people, I'm going to talk about this later, white people say, they're like, flaying themselves like it's Yom Kippur or whatever it is that the Christians do. Like I'm so sorry, it's like, what is happening here? So you have the Islamic supremacy and you have the inverse racism where white people are so apologetic for being white that they're bowing down to the supremacy and they're not realizing they're literally destroying themselves. So what you're seeing here in the West, I think, Fleur, is you're seeing people realizing what the hell is happening here.
Yeah.
Right? And Trump is saying, if you're in my country, and he's the president, if you're in this country on a green card, on a visa, you can't support terror. You can't take over university campuses. This isn't about, freedom of speech. Go stand in Union Square and spew whatever you want to spew. That's not what they're doing. They are violently revolting and taking over a university campus where kids are trying to learn. Why would we allow that?
I don't know why we would allow that. I think Gad Saad would say that it's suicidal empathy. You see it in the UK as well. And I think it is this guilt. Actually, Logan Lefkoff, who's a wonderful advocate for Israel, I was having a chat with her and she was speaking about why this happens. And she said something really smart that I hadn't thought about. I hadn't framed it in my head in this way. She says, even Jewish families do not teach their children or grandchildren that when they arrived to America, they were discriminated. They couldn't go to certain spaces.
Sure.
And that's why Jews had to create their own spaces and master their own spaces because they were excluded. And yet Jewish families are teaching their children that they are part of that white supremacy that subjugated colored people. When Jewish people were never white and Jewish people were never accepted, we had to create our own opportunities. That is lost.
That's why we're in
And
Hollywood.
that's why you have these stupid, moronic Jewish kids standing with the jihadists.
Not just kids.
Because their parents didn't teach them about us and how we got to the West and we got to America. Bob, you're from LA. Why is LA going nuts about this Mahmoud Khalil? Honestly.
So I think it goes back to what you're saying, and it's really a really important thing that you're saying. My grandmother did teach me that when she was growing up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in the early 1900s, back then, she was always afraid of people, throwing her under horse and buggies, and she had a permanent stain on her lip because of that.
Of what?
She was thrown under a horse and buggy before there were cars.
God.
By the Catholics. And I have a lot of Catholic friends because Catholicism, thank God, became very enlightened. And
Well, Christianity has evolved.
of course. And my Christian and Catholic friends are the ones standing with me saying, no, Islamic jihad is bad for all of us, including Muslims. But my grandmother did teach me that. And she also taught me chen and, Jewish values. But this is exactly what I wanted to talk about today, because I think the more we have people, allies like Loy Sharif and Rachel Raza and Mazin Al-Farayeh and Ahmed Taha, Amjad Taha, sorry. We are seeing Muslims rise up and say, this is wrong. We have crossed a line. These are also, the enemies of the Jewish people are also our enemies. And they're starting to squirm and they're getting louder and they're putting more money into these crazy riots. And I think in LA, similar, UCLA, we see it all the time, and we see it on college campuses in Columbia. And, all these people are screaming because they're losing control. They're starting to see that there's logic and they want to go with emotionality. So what happens to Jewish people when we feel someone's upset? It's a beautiful trait, but it's very short-sighted. They don't have the Jewish values to back it up because their grandparents weren't and their parents weren't teaching it to them, and it has fallen by the wayside. And we're seeing them say, "Look how upset they are! It's so frustrating." And so the emotionality and it's just very sad that people aren't.
To me, it's just so sad that you see these people going out demonstrating for this terrorist sympathizer, Mahmoud Khalil, and yet there's an American boy in captivity being tortured called Idan Alexander. And none of these people, including all the Jews that are out there protesting, are thinking for 1 second, that's really bad. No, deporting a criminal, that's bad. I just don't understand it.
I did so much worrying this weekend on Facebook, and it was hurting me so much that it was my Jewish friends that were saying, like, I know that he's somewhat of a supporter of Hamas, but it's wrong. It's not true. He didn't hand out the leaflets. I don't know what they're watching. Okay. I have actual footage of him handing out the leaflets.
He took over. Forget the leaflets. He took over a building.
We are at a point in society where we have to forget about anti-Semitism. We have to think about what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
And when I moved to the United States, I worked for 15 years to qualify for my visa, for an O1 visa.
Wow.
I hired a lawyer. I went through the legal channels. It took me 6 months, but I was at the level where I could legally move to the United States and work there. And I was so happy to. Yeah. And what happens? There's lesbian jihad everywhere. And I'm trying to and I'm there advocating for Israel, advocating for Western values, advocating for the hostages. And yet I'm the one who is being harassed and having my shows, people wanting to boycott my shows and threaten me and send me death threats.
So dangerous.
I'm sorry. This is not the America that people want to live in. People want to live in a society where everyone is safe. And we should not be allowing this. And people need to understand that what was appealing about Trump's message and the Republicans' message, make America great again, America first, is the idea that American citizens are safe. And they are the ones who are the priority, not people entering the country illegally.
And also,
people care about legal immigration.
It's true.
Speaking of legal,
it's true.
How did Mahmoud get these lawyers with this small amount of money? They're living in subsidized housing with his wife.
Apparently, allegedly, Qatar is paying for his
And
lawyers.
how did he get a green card
Surprise,
so quickly?
surprise. Apparently, allegedly.
Okay.
He's got connections. And that's the infiltration of jihadi elements into America, which Trump wants to clear out.
If there's one thing that should unify the country, you could be upset about Trump's potential overreach in terms of executive orders, whatever issue you might have a problem with, but to be on the side of someone promoting terrorism in your country, that is something that everyone should 100% be against. And his green card and any students, any visa of any person promoting U.S. designated terrorist organizations, those visas and green cards should be revoked. 100%.
I grew up, my mother wasn't born in America. My mother was born in Bolivia. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors. They worked their asses off, okay? They came to America and they worked there. From the age of 14, my mother was working in auctions. She drove herself from the chicken farm that they had scraped together to get. They worked hard. They would in a million years would never have gone against the government, would not have been in illegal activities because they were privileged and they knew it to be able to start a new life. And if you're coming to a new country, who the hell do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Get out. It's not an option.
Well, that's the whole point. That they don't just want to move to a country. These jihadists want to take it over. Yeah. And that's what people don't understand the difference is. They're trying to make parallels. Jewish people are productive members of whatever society they join. They contribute. They're the biggest charity givers. They are leaders of industry, and never at any point do they want to change the rules. All they want to do is be accepted, included, and allowed to be productive. And the people don't realize the difference. When you see a Hamas flag, for God's sake, in downtown Manhattan, that's not a warning sign for you. When you see a Houthis with a video, an AI video of dead American soldiers, and you have students going, yay, the Houthis. What do you think this is?
They're learning on their college campuses that a Hamas flag is no different than an Israeli flag. This is literally, they say Israel is a terrorist organization, God forbid. Zionism isn't. It comes from what they're being taught. And my other question is, if you don't feel safe in America, Mahmoud, there are 57 other countries that are happy to let you have Sharia law in whatever enclave that you want. Why is it that you have to come here? I don't understand. Why are they doing it to Europe and England? Does anyone see that there might be some sort of hijacking? We have all the Amjad saying that they're trying to take over the West. That is not supposedly an Islamic idea to just take over everybody, but there's a new kind of Islam in town that is trying to take
100% Islam.
It's political,
100%.
It's political Islam.
Yeah. Okay.
It's political Islam. Yeah. And that is what the Gulf countries have fought against. The UAE, and I keep repeating this because I'm very connected over there, the UAE, it took them 10 years, 15 years to kick out the Islamists. They are so, I can't tell you how on the ball they are. This is how on the ball they are. Every Thursday, the imam of every mosque gets the Dvar Torah, gets the speech, the sermon, to make sure there's no creeping in of jihadi ideology. Yeah. Saudis, since 9/11, remember, 9/11 happened to all Saudis. They've been trying, and MBS is a young leader who has vision, and he's been trying. It's not an overnight thing. There's 55, 60 million people there to save their own countries because they understand that they have young populations, and this is not going to fly in 20 years if they continue down this path of violence and jihadism. So the Arab countries have woken up, or at least some of them. Where is the West?
Because they've crept in through academia to such a degree, and people are so demoralized, and everything is about anti-patriarchy, anti-America. From the time kids are little, they're being taught like that America is racist and terrible and awful. And that's not the reality of the United States. People get along. In the same, like for the most part, I think America is not a racist country. I really don't think that. I think people really get along and like each other.
I agree.
And I think that, but the demoralization and the self-hatred on the left is so intense, and it's especially coming from the coastal elites. Like it's these people trapped in these really fringe ideas that do not represent most Americans.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's not that people on the streets are racist or aren't racist. It's that the systems within play, like the police and other things, are racist. There certainly is. Certainly, the more south you go, it is. Okay, there's no question. You're not going to. Four white people cannot have this conversation so easily. Okay. However, I think the self-flagellation of it and the reverse racism of it not only isn't going to fix it, right? It's not only. It's making it worse. It's making it so that you're unable. You can't self-correct. Right? If you're here and you go here, well, you haven't corrected anything.
Right.
You have to get here. And no one in America is doing that. And I want to say that it's not enough to take out the elements who are against the United States. You have to give young Americans something to be proud of.
Yeah.
And young Americans are not proud to be Americans. Young Brits are not proud to be Brits. I think I spoke about this. They did a study about who would fight for their country. It was like ridiculous. Like you're done. And they know it. Yeah. And they know it. And Russia's coming in, China's coming in, Iran's coming in, Qatar's coming in. They're coming in because we are not standing strong. It's terrifying.
And the real contrast, pole opposite of that is our young men and women who have put their lives on the line. Thousands have lost their lives. Young people living in the I generation, the iPhone and me, selfie. Our young people have stood up, have put their lives on the line. Many have lost their lives. We had 150% show up for reserve duty after October 7th. Which country can say this? This is why Douglas Murray is always so optimistic about Israel, because very few countries around the world, A, have the highest birth rate of the OECD, which we do. We like having a lot of babies. And B, where their young people are so selfless that they're willing to fight till the death. Fight to the death to protect their people, their country, and to rescue their hostages, even if they have to get killed. And I have to mention the interview of this incredible hostage. If you saw him, Omer Winkert, who basically was talking about the treatment by Hamas. Again, you see this kid, this young man, on TV, talking about how they beat him, how they tortured him, how they psychologically tortured him, how he was, on his birthday he was beaten, and he only wished in his next birthday not to be beaten. That's what he wished. Not even to go home, he said. Not even to go, just don't beat me. And the media seeing this, are they not reporting it? Or do people just dehumanize Israelis and Jews so much that they're like, they deserve it?
בשלב אתה מגיע קצת יותר לאזורים המאוכלסים, איפה שיש הרבה אנשים, אתה מתחיל לראות מלא אנשים מעליך, ולבנים, ומוטות, ולומים, וכל מה שאפשר להכות אותם, וילדים על הכתפיים, כי ילדים לשלוש, על הכתפיים של אבא שלהם, מרביצים לך. אני זוכר שהיה מלא טלפונים עליי. מלא טלפונים, מצלמים, כאילו. אז המשכתי עם המחשבה שאני חייב להסתכל לכל העדשות, וכמה שיותר פריימים שלי, כי בסוף אחד יתפרסם.
It's really nice that people are starting to wake up and say, what is the Muslim Brotherhood? And why is, Brigitte Gabrielle...
she's amazing.
From 1991, they've had this plan, and she held it up. And that's such a great clip. I hope we can show it. It's really sad to me. I think there should definitely be, and I am a free speech person. I have a whole show about this. But we have to start having some ramifications for free speech and freedom of religion. This morning, I was woken up again at 4:30 in the morning from 4:30 to 6:30. I couldn't sleep. Why? Because we have the call to prayer for Ramadan.
Yeah.
And no one's reporting this because I think Jews are like, oh, it's just part of living here in the Middle East. But people say this is an apartheid country.
People don't know.
They don't know. That's how they infiltrate. They come in, and I'm not saying all Muslims. I want to live in peace. Israelis want to live in peace with Muslims. We want everyone to be free here, and we are.
No, yeah, nobody's going to show you.
So loud.
Nobody's going to show you the scenes of Friday Ramadan, which we're now on the third one this week. 100,000 Muslims coming up to Temple Mount. For many years, I was deputy mayor, and we used to actually hire buses to bring them in from some of the Judea and Samaria villages that they come from, so that they wouldn't take these kind of pirate taxis who would take a lot of money from them. And we organize buses to actually bring them in. And we don't just herald freedom of worship. We actively facilitate freedom of worship. Actively facilitate it.
Right. But jumping off what you said, I don't necessarily think that freedom of speech or freedom of religion should be limited. I think there should be consequences for conduct.
Yes.
It's about conduct.
What are those laws? We need to come up with that.
Well, Bill Maher was saying, well, I'm a free speech person, so if I'm a free speech person, I have to, Mahmoud Khalil shouldn't be kicked out. But Mahmoud Khalil is not getting kicked out because he said something. Yeah. He's getting kicked out because he was a bully, he harassed, he was violent, and he took over buildings and created damage and propagated propaganda from an ascribed terrorist group.
Terms of his green card.
Exactly.
You violate the terms that you have agreed to, and there are freaking consequences. I'm really sick and tired of this world thinking there shouldn't be any consequences.
Exactly.
This is life. And if we don't understand consequences, what are we doing?
I think that right now we're seeing the results of Democrats and Republicans in the United States being in such separate echo chambers and receiving such different information depending upon the news that they receive and how things are framed and how things are edited. I think that there's quite often a lot of times where Republicans have great policy ideas, but Trump will say something offensive and people will take that clip and go on and on or Ben Shapiro has great information about Israel. Yeah. All this stuff that I've had to learn over the past past year, he's told people about for 15 years about the Muslim Brotherhood. But he says one thing about gay rights or about abortion being illegal, and then we just decide, screw him, we don't want to listen to anything he has to say.
Exactly. It's like black and white. There's many of these people that I agree and don't agree with many things. Like, the right for a woman to choose. And I'm not going to completely blank them, cancel them, because there's one thing we don't agree with, or there's two things we don't agree with. But that is the society we live in. You're 100% right. Even if Trump does something good, nobody on the left will admit it.
Yeah.
Right.
When
didn't stand up and clap for him at all. When
Batia Ungar Sargon was on,
she's great.
When she was on Real Time, it was so interesting because I don't think that a lot of Americans ever ask themselves why Trump won and why his policies were so appealing to people. And when she explained it on Bill Maher, they both sort of looked at each other. The man that was with him, who's the MSNBC correspondent, and Bill, they were both like, okay, well, I guess we're living on two different planets. And it really is like that because they don't exchange information.
Yes.
They don't listen.
They don't listen to each other.
They don't even listen. They don't even want to know. They don't want to know what is going on outside of their four walls and their echo chamber, like you said.
We're seeing it because Jews, for the most part, are so liberal and so dedicated to the Democratic Party, but the Democratic Party's policies in the Middle East were a disaster. It's undeniable. Anyone who knows anything about the Middle East knows the basics, and we see the subversion happening where people are out promoting U.S. designated terrorist organizations.
Yes, but
it's at the point now where we
the
can't.
Americans are fighting for their right to do so. It's like,
no, it's insanity.
Self-destruction button. They're just pushing it over and over and over again.
Confirmation bias on speed. Nobody's listening to anybody, and that's why our show is so important, because we sometimes agree, sometimes we don't, but we hash it out, and we certainly don't cancel anyone, even the people that we really hate. And it wouldn't be the Quad if we didn't highlight the scumbags of the week. And every week we have to wade through scumbags to choose the one that exemplifies the worst scumbaggery of last week. And so we have many for you today. Shoshana.
To my great dismay, my scumbag is a Jewish woman,
Yeah.
Deborah Winger. Well, actually, I don't know if she considers herself Jewish. She said she was brought up Jewish and had to unlearn a lot of things. Please listen to what she has to say for a minute.
I was brought up Jewish. I was brought up with a lot of things that weren't true. I had to unlearn them, and it's taken me a lot of years. And now that I'm here, I need to do all that I can. I have a debt to pay.
A debt to pay? What do you mean?
I have a debt for what I grew up with and believed, and what the state of Israel has done, and what they haven't done, and how they're conflating Judaism with Zionism.
Deborah, if you're just going to bring out your Judaism to crap on your other Jews, do me a favor, just drop it completely, okay? We don't need inside enemies. We've got enough outside enemies. And if you feel that you were lied to and you didn't understand, I don't know, have you been to Israel? Do you actually know what's going on here? You have to make up for things? Is your Jewish guilt coming out of your ears so much that you have to say, you have to make up for things that you learned? This is a devastating use of Jewish guilt, which is usually a good thing because we just use it to make our kids feel bad that they don't call us enough and that they should take us out for dinner. Would it kill you to take your mother out for dinner once in a while? That's Jewish guilt. This Jewish guilt is suicide. So no thank you. You can take yourself out of the camp and not take us with you, throw us under the bus. Not interested, Deborah. Thanks.
Good for you, Shoshana. You're out of the tent, Deborah. And it's a shame because I loved Terms of Endearment. I mean, you did 2 good movies. Was it Top Gun that you did also? No. Officer and a Gentleman. Yeah, you were over in the 80s, so out.
Her grandmother and her mother, I believe, or her great-grandmother were Mary and Teresa. So I have a theory about her that I don't know if there was a conversion for marriage or whatever, but I do think that there was not Judaism taught in the home with pain and love, and it comes back to us. I'm going to put it on the Jewish people that we have to do a much better job at teaching the beautiful Jewish values that they're giving up when they say, Judaism, I have to unlearn all these truths. Do yourself a favor. Let's go to Hebrew school together for Shabbos.
Okay, it seems that you haven't changed much in 2 weeks. Daniel.
All right.
Here we go.
Rosie O'Donnell moved to her ancestral homeland of Ireland because she feels unsafe in the United States. Isn't that nice that she can do that? Ireland was decolonized from the British colonizers, like how Israel was decolonized by the British and Arab colonizers. Israel is the Ireland, a refugee state. The Irish have Ireland. Jews have Judea. So that when haggard bipolar lesbians get hooked into echo chambers and share Al Jazeera jihadist propaganda nonstop and make society unsafe for Jews, they can leave too. Rosie O'Donnell, you spread more false information and blood libel and blatant lies about Israel than practically anyone else in America. I know for a fact at least 5 people had in-person interventions begging you to stop. You know the Paul and Goldberg family personally, and you could have so easily posted about their son being kidnapped on your feed to post awareness about the hostages. Did you ever post about Hirsch on your feed? Yes, after he was murdered. You did it after they executed him. So go to Ireland. You made America unsafe. Stay there with your musty wool sweaters and your cold sores. You won't be missed.
Woo!
Daniel, you made me so emotional.
Oh my
That's
God,
called
Daniel.
tochacha.
What is it with you and these pro-jihadi lesbians?
I have to stop them.
You are the dam. You are the dam. Stop it.
I have gay Israeli.
never had.
I have my hot gay Israeli guys to protect.
You're right. No,
Yeah.
but really, crazy. Why?
They're lunatics.
They're lunatics.
They just got
Let's see if she stays there or realizes that whatever.
off to the cliffs of Mower with you.
That was fire. Okay, Barb.
I think I have a little competition for Rosie O'Donnell in terms of spreading anti-Semitism, and it's Candace. Candace Owens, my friend who I used to adore because I would listen to you and you would spread some right-wing values that I agree with because I am a moderate, but I do swing a little right. But what has happened to you? I don't understand. You're bringing up this whole thing again with Christ is king, and I get that. That's like a case of anti-semantics, where it's like you're saying like, all I said was I believe that Christ is God. Why is that a big deal? It's a little bit like when Jews are like, Hashem is the only one. I get it. Like it's semantics, but let's look at the real things. You've also spread blood libels, like our friend Rosie O'Donnell, our frenemy Rosie O'Donnell. You attach yourselves to these libels and you just call them conspiracy theories that might be true. And Leo Frank, and why don't you watch the show Parade? Why don't you watch a videotape of it? Our friend Ben Platt was in it. It's moving. He says Shema Yisrael at the end of it. Where is your Shema Yisraelness? Your first boss was Dennis Prager, and I asked him point blank a few months ago before he got sick, Dennis, we're praying for you, that you should be better. We need your voice. And he wrote you this beautiful letter in the Jewish Journal with my friend David Suissa, who's an incredible editor. It was the most beautiful piece of what I would consider, maybe I was wrong, let's come for Shabbos. It has point by point. He didn't attack you. He said, why are you saying this? And went through every single point. And it's such a beautiful statement of Jewish humility and how we like to come to the table and talk about things. Where are you? Why are you not sitting with, if you're so pro-Israel, because you say, I'm pro-Israel, I just don't agree with what Bibi, I hate Bibi, and I hate what Israel is doing, and it's a genocide and all these, you're continuing, if you're not anti-Semitic, then why are you continuing to spread blood libels and look into all these things and be on these podcasts that are like, oh, maybe we hate Jews and whatever, and you're on Theo Von saying all these things about how Jews are just blowing things up. I really can't take it. I really wish that we could sit down and have a nice chat about things, because you are definitely my scumbag of the week.
Well, she's been a recurring scumbag here. And let me just tell you, I think that she's much more cynical than all this. I think she's realized that hating on Jews gives her more clicks and brings her more money.
She must be getting paid like Tucker.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Tucker, Tucker's more dangerous because I think Tucker is more ideologically anti-Israel. I think she's just I don't want to say the word, but she's just basically whoring herself out to the anti-Semites that are paying her. That's the way I see it.
But does she realize that she's standing up for governments that actually don't believe in rape?
They don't care.
She's doubling down. She doesn't care.
Okay.
I went to dinner with some conservative people in New York, like people working at Breitbart and that whole thing. And I met someone on her team. And they started spewing the most vicious, hateful, anti-Semitic crap. I literally
at the dinner?
Yes, I got up and left the table. Like, I didn't even finish my meal. I was so disgusted. And they're very happy about how many clicks she's getting, how much money she's making, and it really is this blood libel and the anti-Israel propaganda. It is feeding all the zombies and all these incel kind of people online, and they just eat it up and they love it. And it's this virus that is affecting the world, and she's capitalizing off of it.
It's devastating to me to see the Black community the American Black community be turned against the Jewish community in America, because we've always been allies. And watching this happen in a very they're doing it on purpose, right? They're doing it on purpose. They're turning the Black community against the Jewish community, and the Black community is not the Black community. I don't want to say the Black community, but too many Black people, Black leadership or Black entertainers or whatever are falling into this and becoming victim to this turn, and they're just going to be turned on as well. Like the people who are throwing Jews under the bus, do you think they're not going to throw Black people under the bus? Hello?
It always starts with the Jews, never ends with the Jews. I have to say, on the positive side, when I was in America, I met a guy from the Black community who's working with Van Jones on a really interesting project to bring Jews and Black Americans together to try and fight racism together, what Jews always did. Mm-hmm. Jews were very much a part of the civil rights movement. You've got our friend Shira Solomon, who's also doing her bit for this. And so I'm hopeful that, and also, let's be honest, a lot of black men changed their votes and voted for Trump because they saw the hypocrisy of this left, that they didn't care about them really. They're just using them as pawns for whatever they want to do. And so I'm positive that maybe, and because the black community is normally conservative in its sense of, church and certain values, I do think that there's a corner to be turned. That's why this episode really is about that corner that we're turning. I do feel that we're turning that corner with the black community also. Yeah. And she's going to end up being a fringe character, please God, that nobody's looking at. It's the only way to think about it. I hope so. Anyway, my scumbag of the week, back to the Jews, are the people, the so-called Jews, that call themselves now Jews against deportation. What a shame that these same Jews against deportation weren't Jews against kidnapping, Jews against torture of other Jews and non-Jews by Hamas. It's a shame that they weren't Jews against the massacre of October 7th. No. These are the Jews that were quiet the whole time. But now they got something to get excited about. The deportation of a terrorist sympathizer called Mahmoud Khalil. That got them out on the street. That got all these people to pressure the judges in the case the cases that are being heard to kick this man out. This is where the Jews are coming out. The Jews that are standing firm with the values of supporting a terrorist sympathizer against the people that actually want to kill them. And I want to remind those Jews against deportation that it was the very Jews against all these other, let's say, what was going on in Gaza. The Jews that were on the border with Gaza were the Jews driving these Palestinians to hospital, were the Jews that made it their religion. Peace was their religion. That was the story of the kibbutzes that were on the border with Gaza. They were all about peace. They believed in peace. They really had peace as their main ideology. And it just came out yesterday, and this is really, really heartbreaking, that some of these Israelis in these border communities were part of a conference 2 weeks before October 7th, part of a conference of peace with Palestinians from Gaza. And those were the names that Hamas took to go personally and attack those Jews, the Jews who actually believed in peace as their religion and ideology. And so you Jews against deportation, one day, I hope that you will wake up and understand that you are on the side that the capos took during the Nazi era. You are those Jews. And when people say, what would you have been doing in the 1930s or the 1940s, the Holocaust, and everybody wants to give themselves prizes, I would have been a partisan and I would have fought to the death and I would have, you know where you would have been. You would have been the people lining up the other Jews. Shame on you. Sorry, I had to get it out.
It's really good. I love this show. It's like therapy. It really is.
Yes, the therapy is that we do the bad, we bring out the dirt, but now we finish with the good.
Yeah.
And the heroes this week. So Daniel, let's start with you.
Well, my hero is Sam Ashgari. He is a model and an actor. He was married to Britney Spears. He's a beautiful Iranian American, a sexy Persian man.
Yes.
So Sam has been sort of raising awareness about Iran and speaking a bit about the Islamic Republic and what his family went through and supporting the women life freedom movement. He's mentioned it on a couple of podcasts here and there, but he recently had his photo taken and posted it with Reza Pahlavi at the Nowruz event for the National Union for Democracy in Iran, NUFDI, which is a lobbying group to support a secular, free, democratic Iran. And so I just thought that was really great that Sam did that. It's really important that we start to orient the American public to get them to understand how the Islamic Republic works, how they've set up these terror proxies aimed at destroying Israel, how they're radicalizing the West, and that we should really, if we care about democracy and freedom, we should be wanting the fall of the Islamic Republic. We should be wanting a democratic, free Iran, and for Iran to be at peace with Israel. and that we support the Iranian people. We love the Iranian people. I love Persian culture. I love Persian men. Sam, if you have a gay cousin, let me know. I am so there. And so I really wanted to give him a shout out. That was really important he did that.
Well, it's wonderful when people use their platform for good. And, I want a little to say that Israel, way before October 7th, was standing with the Persian community. Emily Schrader, this lady over here, Shoshana Keats-Jaskoll, and I organized the first the Life, Women, Freedom movement in Israel, and we did in Jerusalem, and we did 2 demonstrations. No, this was, the Human thing was part of it, but this was a demonstration that I organized with Emily and Shoshana in Jerusalem, and then Emily organized a second one in Tel Aviv, and we went to that one. And so we were out there on the streets for Iranian women, but the Iranians have been out there on the streets for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this has to happen.
I heard something terrible I read today, that the Iranian government is setting up cameras now to catch women, like when their patrols can't be everywhere, to catch women not wearing the headscarf, excuse me, and to prosecute them for not wearing the headscarf, but to use security cameras throughout the whole country. So there's nowhere you can go to just breathe and be yourself. It's terrible. Why are we not supporting these people?
Well,
not we, but them.
whoever watched A Handmaid's Tale, do you remember that show?
Yeah.
That's Iran.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you're standing with, you idiot protesters. Honestly,
It's so ridiculous. And they think that they use that as oh my God, evangelicals are going to take over the country. Oh my God, let me get my keffiyeh. Antifada rebel. They're so insane. But also I want to say that the anti-Zionists, there are anti-Zionist Iranians too, who are working for the regime.
Oh, yes, true.
And the anti-Zionist Jews and the anti-Zionist Iranians have done a lot to try to keep the 2 activist communities from connecting.
Yeah.
Why don't we just move the anti-Zionist Jews to?
Oh, that would be great.
I care about them too much to do that.
Natura Carter can be on the same plane.
They should just start their own country.
Let's send them all
It's
there.
really important that
With Mahmoud Khalid.
we have to support the Iranian patriots
Absolutely.
who support Reza Pahlavi.
Absolutely. Shoshana, who's your hero this week?
My hero this week is also an American Jewess and an actress, Deborah Messing.
Another Deborah.
Another
second
Deborah. Another Deborah. Deborah Messing has, from the very beginning, from October 7th, has been speaking out for Israelis and against anti-Semitism for Jews in America. And she has come out with a documentary called October 8th. It's hard when your people are under attack and you feel that you're under attack to constantly be out there all the time, because you have to have a really tough skin, a thick skin. You have to be able to take a lot of emotional battering, both from what's going on and from what you are inevitably going to get against you. And I thank you, Deborah, for telling our story. Thank you for speaking up for us. Thank you for going out everywhere and doing everything you can with your voice. It is way too rare. It really needs to be appreciated. I'm looking forward to seeing October 8th. I hope everyone out at home is also going to see it. And I just want to thank you for being a voice for all of us and all of the Americans who are really having a very hard time with that anti-Semitism. So.
Amen. Yeah. And she made this movie and she got all these students who basically woke up one morning with swastikas on their doors in dorms. One of them is featured Tessa Wexler, who's a friend of mine, also on the Call Israel slate, shameless plug. But again, she took all these students and also highlighted their journey from wanting to just be a regular student to have to fight. So Jews against deportation. Why were you not Jews against harassment of other Jews, young Jews, on campuses?
Seriously.
Thank God for Deborah Messing and other people like that.
Absolutely.
She's amazing.
She really is.
She and I think that the film is called October Hate.
No, they changed it.
Oh, they did?
Yes, it was called October Hate. This is what I understand. I may be wrong. And they changed it to October 8th.
Okay. Interesting. Cool.
But yes, it was called October.
All right.
That's what I introduced it as.
He knows everything.
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
Of course, he's in
the origin story of the movie. Who knew?
Yeah,
exactly.
He always knows more than I do. Yeah. So you did you see it? Did you see the show?
I've had I've met her and talked with her, and she's just like, I've always, being a gay kid growing up in the 90s, like I just always worshipped Deborah Messing. I think she's amazing. I hate that the gay community has become so anti-Semitic and has turned their back on the Jewish community, because Jewish women especially, like I say this all the time, have been the greatest ally for the gay community. And if you look at, if there's one person who saved the gay community, it was Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes.
And she single-handedly, at a time with such hate and such evil, she championed gay rights and stood up and demanded that Hollywood acknowledge the AIDS crisis.
Yes, she unstigmatized. She did a lot to unstigmatize
and it wasn't
AIDS.
difficult. It wasn't easy. It was incredibly difficult.
She really put herself on the line. And of course, Barbara Streisand. Yes, Jewish women are always, like myself, surrounded by wonderful gay men. All right, Barbara.
But I want to say Jack Plotnick, who I love, and Seth Rudetsky from the Broadway community. There are a few fringe gay supporters of Israel and Zionism, and I'm so grateful.
No, 100%.
There's a small group.
No, there are definitely a lot of supporters. It's gay men are 100%, but the problem is we get character assassinated and bullied, and the queer community. It's the queer activist community that was hijacked.
Yes, it's true. It was hijacked.
My hero of the week is Amjad Taha. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I've been watching you for quite a long time. I have a video that I hope will show.
If you care about humanity, and if you care about freedom of speech, and if you care about the freedom of people, how come you never protested about Aiden Alexander, who is actually from New Jersey, and for the past 500 over 500 days he is a hostage of Hamas. They didn't speak about his freedom. They didn't demand it. They didn't go to Trump Tower and occupy it, asking for the freedom of such a New Jersey citizen.
You are a voice of light and reason in a dark sea of propaganda, and like Loïc Sharif and Rachel Raza and Mazin Al-Faryeh, it's so nice. I kind of want to start a new program where, besides having Shabbos with people that don't get it, that we have a pen pal or someone that we can FaceTime with once in a while who is also seeing from the Muslim side that we have the same enemy, and also Christians and also atheists. If we could make this like ally group where every week you have to hang out with a chavrusa, like a learning partner, and you talk about what happened in your country this week, what happened in your city, what happened in Australia this week, for people who are just fighting for freedom and pluralism of religion and free speech. And how are you seeing the infiltration come in through Muslim Brotherhood? That would be so helpful to me. I never thought in my lifetime, like you said, Amjad Taha, we are watching people fight for the West to be destroyed, and we are watching people stand up for communities and sections of the Islamic community that do not consider rape an offense that brings you to jail or that separates you from the community. It really bothers me that we are living in a time where I'm seeing my own Jewish friends stand up for these things. And I am so sick of it. So thank you for being one of those few voices that I can say I can repost. And the other thing I want to say is, if you're sitting at home right now and you're feeling like, I don't know, I keep posting things on Meta like I have, and my account gets attacked and I get shadow banned and something only gets 4 likes when it used to get 750 or whatever, I want you to do something and take a deep breath and just remember that the way that they got to us in Nazi Germany, the way that they're getting to us now is they're trying to silence us. Don't be silent. Post, get to know people, go to some self-hating Jewish friends and family that you have, or people who totally don't understand what the word Zionism means. And instead of trying to fight them online, set up a coffee with them. Take them out for lunch. Go on Zoom with them. Say, I just want to talk to you for 5 minutes. You don't understand what the ripple effects can have. I've had this conversation with some of my Jewish friends from theater camp, from high school, and they go, wow, I never considered that. I never saw this before. And they still may stay in their echo chamber, but they heard one voice, just one voice, like Barry Manilow said, it can make a difference.
You know, it's funny, Bob, because you've always been on this show, that voice of like, let's be forgiving, let's bring them over. And I'm always kind of a little bit like, oh, what's she talking about? But I have to say.
Now you're telling me the truth?
No, that you've begun to influence me a little bit. In the sense that
I'm an influencer.
No, in the sense that I did this webinar with a couple of the student leaders. One of them was Adela Kochav,
I love her.
Who's amazing, and she also on the Call Israel slate, shameless plug. But she said to me something interesting, which I kind of took my angry wig off when she said this. She said, "Look, most of these kids, we have failed them in the sense that the Jewish community has not managed to instill the Jewish pride and values I mean, it's principally their families haven't, but also we haven't as a community. And now that she's saying that, and you've been kind of, gnawing at me for weeks, maybe there's something to that kind of more forgiving or more just let's embrace and see if we can bring you in with honey, because vinegar ain't working. So that's what I'm
Don't
thinking.
ever underestimate bringing someone for Shabbat. I know I say that word a lot.
I do that all the time.
I know you do, but I'm saying it makes a huge, it's something you have to experience. You can't just talk about chocolate ice cream. Sometimes you have to hand the person an ice cream cone, because these kids don't have religion. They didn't have a good experience with Judaism, or maybe one of their parents isn't, or maybe they're in the closet and they don't know that they can come out and be embraced.
Yes.
And we've done a terrible job.
Yes.
And by the way, the Arabs or anyone who's against Jewish people, they know that one of us can make a huge ripple effect. And that's the problem, because they're so loud. They're so upset. If I make one post about Qatar, I get hacked. Why am I getting hacked? Little me with 9,000 followers. It's because they know that my voice goes, oh, that might be truthful. What else does that mean? So don't underestimate the power of one little mitzvah. I sound like Chabad now.
Yeah, but also you're a little too hard on yourselves.
Yes, I agree.
The whole Western society right now has become evil. There's way too much evil in the world, and people are not disciplining their children. People are not parenting their children.
True.
People are spoiling their children.
That's woke.
You can't I get that you guys like to feel guilty, Jewish guilt, but at the same time, this is a much bigger problem than just the Jewish community. It's just that the Jews have been made the scapegoats.
Yes.
And also, there's just not enough information about Israel that is clear and concise, and there's a lot of misinformation. And people have been told for 20, 30 years, don't talk about that. It's a very touchy subject. It's very complicated. And it's not complicated and nuanced. There's one group of people who want to live in peace, and a network of jihadist terrorists that are trying to kill everyone here. So really, that is ultimately the ultimate truth of it.
I love Daniel, who says it like it is. And he sees it as black and white. And you're right, it is black and white. Yes, there are many shades of gray. But ultimately, there's evil people who want to kill you, and there's people who just don't want to be killed. And that's the bottom line. And that's extended to the entire West. But yes, we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves. Having said that, we should try and be forgiving when we can. All right, so my hero this week, Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, we always knew you were, pro-Israel. We always knew that you had your head on straight. We always knew that as a son of immigrants, you understood what legal immigration looked like. You understood also what a dictatorship looks like, because Marco Rubio is Cuban. And so he knows what Castro did in Cuba. So he's he knows good and evil. He understands it. And this week, when he pushed for Mahmoud Khalil to be kicked out, he went on all of the mainstream liberal media and he said to them very clearly, no nuance here, guys, this man, you can say whatever you want about freedom of speech. This is not about freedom of speech. This is about the fact that he lied on his application to be here as a student and to get his green card. Because if you would put in an application, I'm here to, propagate Hamas propaganda. I'm here to disrupt lessons in an elite school. I'm here to bring down Western civilization. He speaks like this. If he would have been honest, then he wouldn't have been given that to begin with. So he has essentially broken the pledge or the commitment that he had to do to come to the country. And he was so unapologetic.
When you enter this is an important point, and I'm glad you asked this question. When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country, on a visitor's visa, okay, you are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities. I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out. It's as simple as that.
That I just love that moral clarity that we have not seen for so long. So muchas gracias, Marco Rubio. You are a champion of truth and you are relentless in that pursuit of truth. And I hope God gives you so much strength to go all the way to the top because you deserve it.
I love Marco Rubio.
It's more than that. It's not just that he lied on his application. It's that was the purpose of coming. This is the purpose of coming. It's so important to understand.
I didn't understand that.
These people are coming with this purpose.
The agenda.
Why would we open our doors?
Yes.
You know, I grew up in Lakewood, New Jersey, and there were Mexican immigrants literally on every corner waiting for work. They would get up in the morning and they would stand on the corner until someone picked them up to go to work. And they worked a whole frickin' day. And they sent money back to their families, and they slept 9 to a room, and they worked hard to keep their families here and to be Americans. I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but I'm saying this is the immigration. Like I said before, this concept of coming and destroying a country is what is wrong with Americans.
Well, thank God we have heroes like Marco Rubio and that some of the people that we mentioned to fight back on that evil. And we will continue to be here, the team that continues to fight back on evil and tells the truth. We hope you join us for another week, and we pray that all the remaining hostages, alive and dead, come home to their families very, very soon. Thank you for watching.